I've never liked school talent shows. The folding chairs are a war crime. The lighting is either migraine-inducing or set to witness protection blur. And there's always that one kid with a ukulele who thinks they're auditioning for The Voice. But I go. I clap. I smile. Because that's what you do when you're a dad. And I am a dad. Or at least, I thought I was. My son, Ben, was up eighth, tap dancing to Uptown Funk like his life depended on it. He's not the most coordinated kid, more elbows than rhythm, but man, he was trying. And I was proud. I filmed every second, even when he missed the beat and did a little jazz hands recovery. You know, the kind only a parent could find charming. But when the last stomp landed and the auditorium broke into applause, my wife clapped too soon. And too hard. Not for Ben. She leaned forward, hands together, beaming in that full-teeth, upper lip twitch way she only reserves for two things: her old college photo albums and chocolate lava cake. The problem? She wasn't looking at Ben. She was clapping for the kid 2 rows later. A boy I hadn't seen before, but I sure as hell noticed now. Because that kid looked like her ex. Same crooked smile. Same sandy brown hair. Same posture, like someone constantly bracing for a camera flash. And when I say ex, I mean the ex. The one she accidentally ran into at Target last year and grabbed coffee with because it just felt polite. I didn't say anything that night. Didn't need to. She was quiet on the drive home, fiddling with her phone, glancing at me between red lights like I might explode. I didn't. That wasn't the plan. But I did start paying attention. The next Tuesday, she wasn't home when I got back from work. Volunteering at school, she said. PTO stuff. She'd been doing that a lot lately. Said she felt more connected to Ben that way. Only Ben never mentioned seeing her there. Not once. So I asked, "Hey buddy, you see mom today at school?" He shook his head. Nah, maybe she was helping in the other class. Then he went back to Minecraft, completely unbothered. That's the thing about kids. They're the best lie detectors, and they don't even know it. So now I had a few questions. Like, what class was she helping in? Why was she volunteering so much when she used to avoid school events like the plague? And why the hell did she clap like she was watching the birth of Christ for a kid who wasn't ours? I didn't confront her. I observed. Over the next 2 weeks, I tracked her volunteering schedule. 3 days a week. Sometimes in the morning, sometimes late afternoon. I told her I was swamped at work and wouldn't be home until late. I wasn't. I was parked down the street, watching. She always left the house with an empty tote bag. She always came back with nothing in it. One Thursday, I followed her. I know, sounds creepy. And it is. But so is a wife who might be sneaking around with someone behind your back at your kid's school. She didn't go in through the main entrance. She used the side lot, the one near the modular classrooms. She lingered outside one in particular, room 7B, before slipping inside without knocking. I waited 40 minutes before she came out. Alone. Straightened her shirt in the side mirror of a nearby car. Touched up her lipstick with the window reflection. Then left like nothing happened. Except something had happened. And I was done pretending otherwise. That night, I asked about her day. "Oh, you know," she said, pouring wine a little too casually. "The usual. Kids were wild. Teachers looked exhausted. Just helping where I can." I nodded. "Cool. Ben said he didn't see you again." She blinked. "Oh, well, I was in the library today. With the kindergartners." "Right." He said the library was closed for carpet cleaning. Her hand froze mid-sip. That was the first crack. Over the next week, I collected more. A receipt for a coffee shop near the school, time-stamped for noon, when she claimed she was at the gym. A selfie she sent me with a school bulletin board behind her. Except that board hadn't been updated in months, according to Ben. But the real nail in the coffin? A photo, posted by the school's official Facebook page. Group shot of the volunteer moms. There she was, half smile on her face, standing next to a second-grade teacher. And next to her, the same kid from the talent show. The caption read, "Thank you to our amazing volunteers. Special thanks to Ms. Carly and her support for Room 7B, and the wonderful family of young Ethan." Ethan, that was his name. I zoomed in on the kid. And the longer I stared, the more convinced I became. The resemblance wasn't just passing. It was eerie. Like someone copy-pasted a different man's face onto a smaller frame. And then the question I'd been avoiding finally knocked me flat. Was I looking at her second child? Not our second child. Her second child. One I never knew about. One she hid and kept close. Suddenly, the clapping made sense. The volunteering. The lies. The kid with her ex's smile. But if I was right, this wasn't just infidelity. It was betrayal in the shape of blood. So I started planning. Not an argument. Not a fight. A strategy. Because if she wanted to pretend that kid didn't matter, I'd remind her what being a real dad looks like. I'd remind her who raised Ben. Who packed the lunches. Who did the math homework. Who went to the ER that time Ben stuck a marble in his nose and panicked. And I'd take it all from her. Because if she wanted to play family behind my back, then I'd take the one we did have and walk. The next morning, I packed Ben's lunch with a level of precision that would have made NASA proud. Turkey, no crust. Apple slices, skin off. The juice box with the purple straw, because the red one is too sour. It was mechanical now, the morning routine. But inside my chest, a low simmer had replaced the usual autopilot. Carly, my wife, my co-parent, my supposed partner, came downstairs like everything was fine. Hair pulled into that effortless bun, hoodie over leggings, clutching her travel mug with Mom Fuel printed in teal cursive. She kissed my cheek. I let her. Got a long day at school, she chirped. PTO is prepping for spring carnival. We might be late getting back. She lied so smoothly, it almost sounded sweet. I nodded, zipping Ben's backpack. All good. I might be late too. Got that conference call with the West Coast team. Her smile faltered, barely, before she recovered. All right. The LA people. Yup. The LA people. We were now 2 actors in a school play. Bright sets, fake laughs, no eye contact unless cued. After drop-off, I didn't go to work. I drove straight to the courthouse. I didn't file anything. Not yet. But I wanted to know what I'd be dealing with if I did. Custody laws. Visitation standards. Requirements for emergency petitions. I took notes like I was cramming for finals. Cold, methodical, determined. Because if Ethan was her son, and she had hidden that fact from me, I needed leverage. And then, possibly worse, if Ethan wasn't her son, if he was someone else's, and she was sneaking around out of pure infidelity, I needed protection. For Ben. For me. Afterwards, I went to the school. Not to cause a scene. Just to observe. From my parked car, I watched room 7B. I watched the teachers filter in and out, kids hopping along behind them like ducklings. And I saw her, Carly, in that same hoodie, same damn Mom Fuel mug in hand, standing outside the classroom with a young teacher, mid-30s, wide eyes, frazzled hair, chatting too close, gesturing too much. She laughed, the kind of laugh you reserve for someone who makes you feel young again, the kind that makes your husband's stomach twist. And then Ethan ran up and hugged her. Not just a polite hug, a missed you hug, arms tight, face buried. And Carly knelt, hugged him back, kissed the top of his head. Ben never got that kind of hug from her. Not anymore. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. There was no recovering from this. Even if she wasn't cheating, even if Ethan was a nephew or some weird godson arrangement, she'd already chosen where her emotions belonged. And it wasn't home. That night, I planted the first seed. I was thinking about pulling Ben from school, I said casually over dinner. Just for a few weeks. Homeschool. Maybe do some one-on-one projects. Carly nearly choked on her asparagus. Why would you do that? He's been distracted. Off. His teacher mentioned he's having trouble focusing. Maybe he needs a reset. She frowned. This is the first I'm hearing of it. Guess you've been busy volunteering. The air went still. Even Ben noticed. Can I do homeschool too? He asked, mouth full of mashed potatoes. Carly forced a smile. Honey, let's let Daddy think about it. That night, after Ben went to bed, she cornered me. What's going on? She asked, arms crossed in the doorway. You've been weird lately. I could say the same. She narrowed her eyes. You don't trust me. That's a dangerous thing to say when I haven't accused you of anything. She opened her mouth, closed it, then turned and left the room. Progress. Over the next week, I started collecting evidence. Nothing dramatic. Just enough. Photos of Carly at school, standing with Ethan. Screenshots of her texts. I'd mirrored her phone the week prior using an app she didn't know I knew how to use. I wasn't proud of it. But pride wasn't the goal anymore. Survival was. And then I found it. Buried in her email, one she thought she'd hidden, was a folder titled Scholarship Paperwork. Inside, scanned documents. Legal ones. Adoption files. Ethan Walker. Born 6 years ago. Birth mother listed as Carly Jean Morrison. Father, unknown. I stared at the screen for what felt like an hour. So it was true. Ethan wasn't her affair partner's kid. He was hers. Which meant mine? No. The dates didn't line up. He was born just after a rocky period in our marriage. One where Carly had spent a month away helping her mother recover from surgery. A month I had chalked up to nerves, exhaustion, even postpartum depression from having been. But she hadn't been in Ohio. She'd been giving birth. Alone. And hiding it ever since. And now she was volunteering at the school he attended. Clapping for him. Loving him. While I, her husband, had been raising the wrong child. Or rather, the wrong only child. And that's when it shifted. The pain? Sure. Still there. But it calcified into something sharper. More surgical. She thought she could live this double life. That she could have her secret son, her fake volunteering, her happy facade. But I was done being the third wheel in my own marriage. So I pulled Ben from school. Said we needed a break. Told the school it was temporary and legally sound. Carly was furious. She screamed. She wept. She said, "You're overreacting. He needs stability." I looked her in the eye and replied, "So did Ethan." Her face went pale. Her hands trembled. "You went through my files," she whispered. "You went through our life." For the next week, she barely spoke to me. Just angry glances, silent dinners, long showers with locked doors. Perfect. Because in that silence, I filed the petition. Emergency temporary custody. I attached everything. The photos, the adoption documents, the messages she sent to that teacher about making up for lost time. I highlighted phrases like, "Ethan deserves a chance to know me," and "I wish I could go back and tell him I wanted him." The judge agreed there was enough to review. She was served the next day, and when she opened the envelope, she screamed. Loud. A deep, guttural sound that didn't even sound human. Ben asked, "What's wrong with Mom?" I hugged him close. "Nothing, buddy. She just forgot who Dad is." It's funny. The moment someone realizes they've lost control isn't usually dramatic. There's no lightning crack, no glass shatter, no opera swell in the background. It's quieter, smaller. For Carly, it happened in the kitchen at 7:46 a.m. on a rainy Tuesday. She had just finished pouring cereal. Ben was halfway through a spoonful. I was at the table, checking emails I didn't need to check. Then she saw the courier envelope. The one she'd tried to hide in the junk drawer the night before. Except I'd pulled it back out and put it right on the counter. She froze. Her hand gripped the milk carton tighter than necessary. Her lip twitched. She knew. "You gonna open it?" I asked without looking up. She didn't answer. Ben looked up, totally oblivious. "Is Mom okay?" "She's fine, champ. Just surprised." She turned to me, slowly. "You filed for custody?" I nodded, still scrolling. "Emergency review. Based on recent discoveries." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "You don't have to do this." "Neither did you," I replied. "But here we are." Carly didn't cry. She didn't yell. She didn't do the movie thing and drop to her knees, sobbing. She just stood there, staring at that envelope like it was a loaded gun. And in a way, it was. That day, she didn't go to the school. She didn't go anywhere. Instead, she followed me around like a ghost. Silent, hovering, trying to stay in the same room, as if proximity could undo damage. That night, when Ben was asleep, she finally broke the silence. "I didn't cheat." I looked up from the couch. Funny opening line. "I didn't cheat," she repeated, voice tighter. "I didn't. Not physically. There's more to it. Did you give birth to a child I didn't know about while we were married?" She flinched. "Yes." "Did you hide it for 6 years?" "Yes." "Then you cheated." "No, she stopped. "It wasn't an affair. Not like that." "Then explain it," I said, setting down my glass. In small words. Slowly. "Because right now, the only story that makes sense is the one where you left for a month, had a kid, and lied to everyone, including your husband, about it. So go ahead. Rewrite it. Tell me your truth." Carly sat down on the armrest, not next to me. "Always a clue. I got pregnant during that month," she began, voice low. "You remember, we were fighting. We weren't talking. I left for my mom's. You said she had surgery. She didn't. Right?" She continued. "I was going to terminate. I didn't want another kid. We weren't ready. I had the appointment set. But then I don't know, I couldn't go through with it. I didn't even tell her, my mom, I mean. I just stayed in a motel near her town. Gave birth at a small clinic that handled private adoptions. I thought it was better. Cleaner. I didn't want to bring a baby into a broken home. I blinked slowly. Except the home wasn't broken. You just left. And never told me. She looked away. It was my choice. It was our child. No, he wasn't. What? Carly swallowed. He's not yours. A silence dropped over the room like a blackout curtain. I stared at her. What did you just say? She hesitated, then said it again. Ethan isn't yours. My jaw tensed. Then whose is he? She didn't answer. And that told me everything I needed to know. Is it Ryan? I asked coldly. Ryan was the ex. The high school boyfriend. The tall, grinning idiot who still liked Carly's Facebook posts even though he was just being friendly. She stayed quiet. I leaned back on the couch. Let the moment breathe. So, let me get this straight, I said. While we were married, during a rough patch, you went off, got pregnant by your ex, lied about it, gave the baby up, then decided years later to volunteer at his school, play mommy in secret, and hide the whole thing from the husband raising your other son. Sound about right. Carly's voice cracked. I didn't know he went there. Don't insult me. I didn't plan it. I didn't know it was him when I started volunteering. Sure. But once you did realize it, you didn't stop. She had no answer for that. So here we are, I said. You have a son you abandoned. And now you're trying to build a relationship with him behind my back, while still pretending this family is intact. I didn't abandon him. I thought I was doing the right thing. Then own it. Don't hide it. Don't lie to everyone, and then act shocked when the truth bites back. She started crying then, real tears this time. Not the manipulative ones. I screwed up so badly I can't breathe kind. But I felt nothing. I was past rage. Past heartbreak. I was at clarity. The next day, Carly tried damage control. She emailed the school and said she'd be taking a step back from volunteering. She called a therapist. She even apologized to Ben for being distracted lately. But it was too late, because the court date was already set, and I had my ducks in a row. Ben was doing fine with homeschool. I hired a tutor part-time, so he didn't feel completely isolated. He actually seemed happier. No rushed mornings, no awkward pickups. Carly was unraveling by the hour. She'd try to overcompensate, making elaborate breakfasts, suggesting family outings, asking to talk after Ben went to bed. I said no every time. She needed to sit with it, with the truth, with her decisions. And then the bomb dropped. It came in the form of a letter. From Ethan. It wasn't mailed. It was tucked into Ben's backpack, folded neatly. Crayon handwriting. Dear Mrs. Carly, I miss you. You didn't come this week. Did I do something bad? You said we were going to finish the volcano. Please come back. Love, Ethan. No return address. No signature from a parent. Just raw, childlike emotion on lined paper. I handed it to Carly at dinner. She opened it, read it, and started sobbing. Ben looked up, confused. Why's mommy crying? She's just sad, buddy, I said. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes that hurt people. Carly ran from the table. I didn't follow. She needed to break before she could rebuild. And even then, there was no guarantee I'd be there when she did. That weekend, her sister came over. I heard them talking on the porch, heated whispers, then long silences. After she left, Carly walked in with puffy eyes and a look I hadn't seen in years. Resolve. I'm going to tell Ethan. I raised an eyebrow. Everything. She nodded. He deserves to know. I didn't argue. I didn't support her either. She left the next morning. And when she came back, empty-handed, hollow-eyed, I didn't have to ask how it went. She went straight to bed and didn't come out for 2 days. I let her. Because healing isn't kind. It's messy, lonely, brutal. And for Carly Morrison, it had just begun. I always assumed the worst moments in life happened fast, like a car crash or a punch to the gut. But when I stood outside the courtroom, holding Ben's little backpack and watching Carly pace in high heels too tight for her nervous walk, I realized something worse. The slow bleed. The kind that doesn't hurt at first, just leaves you dizzy. The bailiff called our names. Morrison versus Morrison. Custody review. I stepped forward. Calm. Controlled. Carly didn't. She clutched her purse like it held answers. The judge, a no-nonsense woman with tired eyes, didn't smile. Just nodded, checked the docket, and motioned us in. We sat across from each other. A chasm between us. Ben was with the court-appointed child advocate, playing with Legos in a waiting room down the hall, blissfully unaware that his parents were about to decide the rest of his life. Carly's lawyer stood first. Your Honor, my client concedes to the facts presented in the emergency motion. She acknowledges a past concealment of a biological child from a previous relationship and that she engaged in contact with said child at her current son's school under the pretense of volunteering. The judge raised an eyebrow. And your client sees no issue with this? She understands now the emotional impact, and I tuned out. Because none of this mattered. I had everything. Screen-recorded text messages where Carly referred to Ethan as my secret sunshine. Photos of her at the science fair beside him. The email she sent his foster mom thanking her for the chance to reconnect. I didn't need to explain why I felt betrayed. The documents did it for me. When it was my turn to speak, I didn't go for drama. I went for truth. Your Honor, I said, standing with my folder. This isn't just about deception. It's about emotional safety, about trust, about what a child sees when he looks at the adults shaping his world. I paused, let the weight settle. I found out my wife had another child, a son, only after noticing her behavior at our son's school. I gave her the opportunity to tell me herself. She chose to lie, again. Even when presented with undeniable evidence, she avoided ownership until cornered. My concern is not rooted in anger. It's rooted in clarity. How can I co-parent with someone who consistently manipulates reality to fit her comfort? Carly sniffled. The judge didn't flinch. After that, it moved quickly. Temporary full custody. Mandatory co-parenting classes. Psychological evaluations for both of us. The usual legal dance. But the room felt final. When we left the courtroom, Carly didn't look at me. She just whispered, "Can I say goodbye to Ben?" I nodded. She walked to the advocate's room, knocked, and waited. I watched through the window. Ben hugged her. Quick, instinctive. She crouched to whisper something. He pulled back. Confused. Not sad. Just puzzled. She wiped his face, kissed his forehead, and walked past me without a word. It wasn't just a legal defeat. It was something deeper. Something primal. She knew she had broken something she couldn't fix. Back home, the silence was awkward. Ben kept asking little things. Can Mom still call me? Why was she crying? Is this like when people get unfriends at school? I answered simply. She loves you. But some grown-ups have to work on things before they can be around all the time. He nodded, distracted by his game. It amazed me how resilient kids were. Adults shattered like glass. Kids bounced like rubber. That night, I sat in bed and reread the court papers. Not because I doubted the decision, but because I needed to remind myself. This wasn't revenge. This was preservation. Still, the words cut deeper than I expected. Petitioner granted sole temporary custody due to respondent's concealment of biological offspring and consistent pattern of deceit. It sounded clinical, but it meant everything. Weeks passed. Carly moved in with her sister. She texted once a day, always something soft. Tell Ben I love him. Did he eat okay today? I saw this book he'd like. I kept it civil, never warm. But inside, I was cooling, not boiling. Therapy helped. It felt cliché at first, the leather couch, the soothing tones. But my therapist, Jay, didn't coddle me. He asked questions like scalpels. Do you want to forgive her eventually? I want to understand her first. Then you have to understand you first. He was right. I started unpacking more than Carly's betrayal. I unpacked my tolerance, my blind spots, my role. Not blame, never that, but reflection. Meanwhile, Ben thrived. He loved online school, took to virtual field trips with glee, started drawing comic books featuring a superhero dad who stopped villains with secrets. Subtle, but telling. One afternoon, as we built Lego towers, he asked, "Is it bad to have a brother I don't know?" I froze. You remember Ethan? He nodded. He looked like me. A little. I chose honesty. He might be your brother. We're still figuring that out. Can I meet him someday? Maybe. When we're all ready. He thought about that, then went back to stacking bricks. It struck me, forgiveness starts small. Sometimes in plastic blocks. 2 months later, Carly asked for a supervised visit. I said yes. We met at a neutral center, all plastic chairs and cheap coffee. She wore no makeup. Just jeans, a hoodie, and a hope that made my chest tighten. Ben ran to her. She hugged him like he was oxygen. For an hour, they played. No drama. No tears. Just laughter. Afterward, she turned to me. Thank you. I didn't say anything. But I nodded. Because this part, wasn't about us anymore. It was about the kid who hadn't asked for any of this. And the woman who, finally, was trying to put the pieces back without pretending the cracks weren't there. Back home, As Ben fell asleep, he whispered, "Mom smiled more today." She did. Maybe she's fixing her heart. I kissed his head. Maybe we all are. And for the first time since that damn school assembly, I believed it. I always believed closure came in grand finales, court gavels, slam-dunk truths, confessions under tears. But sometimes, it crept up like fog on a windshield. You didn't see it until it blurred everything you thought was clear. Ben had adjusted remarkably well to the new rhythm. Our house had become a hybrid of calm and cautious, routine peppered with guarded optimism. Supervised visits continued, and Carly, to her credit, showed up every time. Clean, calm, no games. Still, the mystery of Ethan, the boy she had cheered for, hung like an unfinished paragraph in our lives. I couldn't let it go, not because I needed vengeance anymore. That part of me had gone quiet, but because I needed clarity. I needed to know who this kid was, not just for me, but for Ben. One afternoon, after a supervised visit, Carly lingered outside the center, waiting until Ben was out of earshot. "I want to tell you the whole story," she said. "But not here. Not like this." I crossed my arms. "Why now?" "Because Ethan asked to meet Ben." That did it. We agreed to meet the next day. Neutral ground. A local park. No lawyers. No lies. She brought a manila folder. "I should have told you years ago," she began. "But I was afraid you'd leave, and honestly, I didn't even fully understand it myself until recently." "Go on," I said. She took a breath like she was jumping into deep water. "Ethan isn't from an affair. Not in the traditional sense. I had him when I was 19. I was in a really bad place. My mom sent me to this Christian girls' home upstate. One of those places that preach second chances and silence. I blinked. That was new. They pressured me into a closed adoption. Told me it was the only way to save my soul. I never saw his face. I never got to hold him. They didn't even let me name him." She passed me a piece of paper. A birth certificate. Baby boy Anderson. Born June 1st. My stomach turned. They said it was anonymous. But a year ago, he reached out. Through a DNA site. Said he'd been trying to find his birth mom for years. I stared at the certificate, then back at her. "You knew all this when we got married?" "No. I didn't find out until last year." "So why lie? Why call him a family friend? Why hide him at the school?" She chewed her lip. "Because I felt guilty. I didn't want to tell you I had this whole life before you. A life I buried. It didn't make sense. Not fully. But why use Ben's school as your reunion ground? Why not be honest from the start?" Her face flushed. "Because Ethan's foster mom works there. He volunteers. That's how he found me. I didn't go looking for him. He walked into my world and said, 'Hi, Mom.' I panicked. I rubbed my temples. This wasn't an affair. It was a secret life. You should have told me. We could have handled it." "I know that now," she said. "But I was scared you'd think less of me." "Less of you?" I scoffed. "Carly, I've seen you in labor, covered in baby puke, and crying on the bathroom floor at 3 a.m. Nothing about you is less. But secrets? They change everything." She wiped her eyes. "He's not trying to be Ben's brother. He just wants to meet him. Once. To say thank you." "For what?" "For having a good mom." That hit me in the ribs. Because despite it all, Ben did love her. And Ethan, somehow, didn't resent her. I took the folder and nodded. "I'll think about it." Back home, I couldn't sleep. So I called Jay, my therapist. Told him everything. He was quiet for a while. Then he said, "You've been living in black and white. What if this is a shade of gray?" "Gray feels like quicksand," I said. "But maybe it's the only honest color left." A week later, I agreed to a meeting. Public. Safe. Casual. We met at the botanical gardens. Ethan was already there, standing near the koi pond. He looked like Ben. Like me, even. Same jawline. Same crooked front tooth. He didn't say Dad. He didn't say anything until Ben approached. "Hey," Ethan said, crouching beside him. "You like fish?" Ben nodded. "Me too." They talked for 10 minutes. About fish. About Lego. About cartoons. Then Ethan stood up, looked at me, and said, "Thanks for taking care of her. She needed that." It wasn't resentment. It was respect. And then he walked away. No drama. No strings. Just peace. But of course, that wasn't the end. A week later, Carly texted, "Can we talk? I need to tell you something else. It's about the letters." My blood ran cold. I had planted those letters. Months ago. Fake love notes from a made-up man named Kevin. I'd slipped them into drawers, between books, under the couch. A psychological trap. I never expected her to admit to them. So how did she know? We met at a coffee shop. She slid her phone across the table. I found this in my cloud backups. I don't know how I missed it before. It was a voicemail. From a year ago. From a man. Hey, it's me. I left the recliner in the living room. Hope it makes you feel a little more at home. Can't wait for our next PTO meeting. I choked on my coffee. That wasn't my fake Kevin. That voice was real. What the hell is this? She looked nauseous. It's Pastor Ryan. From our church. I blinked. Ryan? The one who baptized Ben. She nodded. I sat back, jaw slack. You told me Kevin wasn't real. That it was all in my head. I know, she whispered. Because I couldn't admit the truth. So I blamed a name that didn't exist. But I didn't know. You were already planting clues. So I invented Kevin. But you used Kevin to cover for Ryan? She nodded again. You created a ghost. I gave him a face. It was too surreal to process. The man who'd blessed our son had been sneaking into our home while I was deployed. The recliner. The church group gift. The familiarity. It all made sense now. And I didn't feel angry. I felt empty. Later that night, Ben crawled into bed beside me. Dad. Yeah. Did I do something bad? My throat tightened. No, buddy. Not even a little. Then why are you sad? I pulled him closer. Because grown-ups forget how to be brave sometimes. He nodded, like that made perfect sense. Then he whispered, I'll be brave for you. And I lost it. Silent tears. A quiet sob into his hair. Because he deserved better. And it was time I gave it to him. They say rock bottom has a trap door. I didn't believe that until I opened an envelope labeled, to whom it may concern, from the church's HR department. Inside, a formal statement. Pastor Ryan had been placed on administrative leave due to allegations of inappropriate personal conduct involving a member of the congregation. No names. No specifics. Just a corporate attempt at holy damage control. Carly hadn't turned him in. I hadn't, either. Someone else had. My mind immediately went to Ethan. I called Carly. Did Ethan report him? She paused, then quietly said, no. It was Ryan's wife. Of course. Apparently, she'd found a folder of photos, shots from school volunteer days, text screenshots, and a selfie Ryan had taken in our old recliner. That damn chair. Like a monument to every lie. Carly, for once, wasn't the center of the storm. But she had fueled it. Still, she wasn't defending herself anymore. She had stopped lying. Stopped gaslighting. Stopped trying to rewrite the narrative. I wasn't ready to forgive her. But I had stopped hating her. Because hate is a tether. And I was finally cutting the rope. A few weeks passed. Ben was thriving in his new school. His art teacher called to say he was exceptionally imaginative. He had drawn a picture of a dragon fighting a two-headed snake labeled grown-up lies. I told her it was symbolic. Ethan sent a letter. Handwritten. No return address. Inside was a drawing, too. A split-panel sketch. On one side, Carly and Ben at a park. On the other, me standing beside a shadow figure with a caption that read, Dad of the Year. I stared at it for a long time. Not because I believed I was some heroic parent, but because it reminded me I had chosen to stay. Not with Carly, but with Ben. Fully, fiercely, and without condition. Court day came fast. Carly didn't fight for custody. She didn't contest supervised visitation or child support. She agreed to everything. She even offered a public apology in front of the mediator, stating, I put my shame above my son. I won't make that mistake again. The judge nodded. I got full custody. Ben moved in permanently. Our house didn't feel broken anymore. It felt quiet. Real. The recliner was long gone. I donated it to the same church it came from. Poetic, in a way. In its place, I got a beanbag chair. Ben picked the color. He called it Dad Blue. The real kicker? A month later, the school invited me to speak at Career Day. Me, the guy who had once ducked every bake sale, skipped every PTA meeting, and thought parental involvement meant remembering where the lunchbox was. Now, I was asked to inspire other kids. I didn't talk about tech or military strategy. I talked about mistakes, and how adults make them, and how, sometimes, telling the truth late is still better than never. Ben sat in the front row, grinning. Afterward, he ran up and hugged me in front of the whole class. My dad, he told everyone, solved a mystery with Legos and questions. I laughed. I didn't correct him, because maybe I had. Later that afternoon, I found a small envelope taped to Ben's art folder. No stamp. No label. Just 3 words in messy handwriting. Thank you. E. Inside, a tiny drawing. Stick figures, me, Ben, and Ethan, all standing side by side. Above us, a speech bubble from Ethan that said, "It's okay. You didn't know. I didn't cry. Not then. But that night, once Ben was asleep, I sat on the beanbag chair, clutching that sketch. And for the first time in a long time, I felt light. Not because things were perfect, but because I had stopped carrying other people's lies like they were my burden to bear." Carly eventually moved closer to her mother's place. She FaceTimes Ben every Sunday. No more pretending. No more guilt-tripping. Just a woman trying to earn back the right to be called mom. As for Pastor Ryan, he never returned to the church. His wife filed for divorce. Turns out, there were others. A pattern of spiritual mentorship that crossed lines. He's now doing insurance sales in another county. Good riddance. It's funny. When this all began, back at that talent show, I thought I was the fool. The guy who didn't notice the signs. The one being laughed at behind his back. But standing here now, packing Ben's lunch while he talks my ear off about a robot jellyfish war, I realized something else entirely. I wasn't the fool. I was the guy who stayed long enough to see the truth. Who fought, not with rage, but with reason. Who turned a betrayal into a boundary. And who earned, not demanded, the one title that mattered. Dad. Subscribe to the channel